Good afternoon, everyone. This is Rebecca Gill, and I want to welcome you to today's webinar, where we're going to explore Bing Webmaster Tools and discover what you might be missing. Just a few housekeeping items as we get started. There will be a recording of this webinar, and it will go out via email to all of the attendees, as well as those people who registered and didn't have an opportunity to attend live. Within that, I will also include a link to the slides. So if you want to download them later, you are welcome to do so. So because of that, please do not feel pressured in the fact that you may need to take notes. You don't have to do that. I'd rather you be attentive to the discussion and make sure that you're grasping everything that you need to take away, and we'll leave notes to the actual slides that you can download later today. I will have time at the end of the webinar for Q&A. I always make sure I have some time for that. So there's a questions option within the GoToWebinar control panel for you. If you have any questions, just drop them in there. And then at the end of the webinar, I will be happy to go through and answer anything that pops up as we go through the slides and we dig into Bing Webmaster Tools. I do have some basic slides today that I want to have so that you have some takeaways. And then we're actually going to go into the tool and explore it because I really want you to see what's available. There's just so much more than anybody ever thinks it's there. And I'm glad that you're joining us today so that we can explore it together. All right, so let's just get started. Again, I wanted to do this webinar because Bing does have an opportunity to drive traffic, real website traffic, and everybody always thinks about Google when we're talking about search, but Google is just one area within the online world that we can actually use to get to websites, and it's important for us to remember that there are other things besides Google out there. In fact, Bing actually has quite a bit of market share. It has its place, and if we just even kind of look at some base metrics that they provide, there's 136 million unique searchers. Monthly searches equal 5 billion. And when you look at the overall market share, it's 33%. So now think about that. When you are highly focused on Google and Google search, and you don't care much about Bing, you're potentially missing 5 million search opportunities a month. Now, granted, all of those would not pertain to you, but still, that is a pretty powerful number. Okay, let's look at the demographics because I think that this is like a really cool element of Bing that people are not even aware of. So first and foremost, the market share of Bing just doesn't include Bing. It's actually Bing and Yahoo because for a number of years, Bing has driven the search results within Yahoo. So if you're optimizing for Bing and you're catering to what Bing needs for SEO, you are also by default catering to Yahoo. And that's an important element that marketers and webmasters need to know. The other thing is, according to Bing at least, their audience is fairly sophisticated and educated. So if your target demographic is including this market set, then it is something that you might want to pay attention to. And we have just some of the overall demographics, and that may or may not apply to you as a marketer or website owner, but it is important. So I do want to make sure that so you at least see those statistics and you're aware of them. And then Bing also it's not just US based or North America based. There's 37 markets that it covers throughout the world, and that has a lot of dominance in search. And so today I want to go through some key elements in Bing, and I'm going to show you some other things where you can explore information about Bing search and how you can better optimize your website. I can't get through everything in an hour. It's impossible because there's so much more here than you even realize is available to you. So I'm going to hit the important ones to make sure that you know how to add in your account, set it up, some key features, and then I'm going to show you some links where you can go to explore even more data. All right, so let's just hit it first with what kind of components do we have to offer within Bing Webmaster Tools? Well, you can go in and there's what's called My Sites, which is going to give you a list of websites that are available to you that you've already populated in your account. For most the average people, that's one, maybe two. For people like me who have run agencies and have clients, we might see 10, 20, or 100. But it's just a quick list of what you're going to have available to you. And then once you are in My Sites, you can click onto any of the URLs and get to your individual site and your configuration options and your data. And Bing does a really nice job of breaking things out so that we have clear areas of site configuration, clear areas of reporting and data it's giving us, some options we have for doing further diagnostics. And then one of the nice features about Bing is its ability to manage messages. And that was definitely one area that I was pleasantly surprised with when I started to utilize Bing Webmaster Tools. All right, so what about the basic setup? Because this can be intimidating. Well, I'm going to tell you one thing right now. If you've ever used Google Search Console, it's not going to feel as intimidating as you think, because the process of entering in a website into Bing is very similar to Google Search Console. You are going to authenticate it in the same type of manner. So just like Google, you need to have a Bing account, right? And Bing account meaning Microsoft, because Bing is part of the Microsoft Corporation. So there's different types of accounts you can have, but the basics is a Microsoft account. And if you need to set one up, I'm giving you the URL right there. Once you have your account activated, you just go to the URL for Bing Webmaster Tools and you're going to add in your URL. There's a box that says, hey, give me your URL. And then we just need to authenticate it. So basically it's telling Bing that yes, you own that website or you have access to the website source code and files. And this is very similar to Google Search Console. You can use the CNAME record with DNS. You can add a file that they give you onto your server via FTP, or my personal favorite, because I use a lot of WordPress sites, I just go into the Yoast SEO tool and I plop a line of code into a box and I authenticate it that way. If you are using hosting that has cache in place, like WP Engine, for example, you might need to clear your cache before you try to authenticate this and verify it with Bing. And that's just so you can get rid of the default files that are there, bring in that new file with your code snippet, and allow Bing to see that as opposed to the file that may be sitting out there. It is a very fast process if you've done it before, or if you've done Google Search Console, because again, it's going to be very similar. When you have your account initiated, the next thing you're going to want to do is upload your XML sitemap. And if you've never used an XML sitemap, it is a code-driven sitemap that lists out all of your content. When you have a good XML sitemap creator, that content is going to be broken out into segments of your website, like posts and pages, or maybe industries or solutions, things like that. It just compartmentalizes content, and it provides a list to the search engine so that the search engines know exactly what you have and what may have been added, updated, or deleted in recent history. It's a wonderful way to stay connected to the search engines and to make sure that the search engines always have a good list of what's available to you. Once all of that process is done, and again, it doesn't take that long to actually do it, you have the option of now allowing Bing to start collecting data off of your website or your blog. And once it has an opportunity to collect some data, you're going to get some pretty cool reporting and diagnostics from Bing. So let's just hit a few of the additional getting started things. I mentioned XML sitemaps. Bing can take a number of sitemaps into the account. Regular XML sitemaps. It can do RSS. And then it can actually do a plain text file as well. Again, my preference that you would use is the XML sitemap. If you're using WordPress, one that's driven and created by a tool like the Yoast SEO plugin, because it's effortless and it manages it for you, and it will give all of the necessary details for you, and it will update itself as you update your website. That's what I love about it. It's once you connect it, it's pretty much effortless. And then when you're wanting to be able to give that information to the search engines, you can utilize a couple of different methods. You know, you don't always have to connect it to your account, although that's my preference. You can actually tell Bing, hey, by the way, via my robots.txt file, here's the link to my sitemap, and they have a little directive that they use for that. Again, you know, my preference is you do it in your account. That way you can see it in the account, make sure everything's healthy, and it just kind of gives you a little bit more control without having to go into an actual source file on your website. The wonderful thing about Bing, and where you're going to see a little bit of a difference between Bing and Google, is that Bing has in my opinion, it's a little bit better management of users. So when you have your account, you can start assigning users to have access to your data. It can be read-only data, it can be read and write access, or you can have administrators assigned. The nice thing about this is I ran into a problem the other day with adding a user, and I was just getting an error message from Bing, and I reached out to Bing support, and within 24 hours, I actually had a message back from them, which was kind of surprising that not only did they reply to me, they replied to me very promptly. And while we do have some of this access levels in Google Search Console, one thing we don't have is the ability to set message options. This is where it was my aha moment when I first started to use this tool. The cool thing about this is I get to set preferences. And this is nice for your individual users. So you can literally tell Bing, by user, would you like them to receive administrative messages, crawling errors, indexing errors, or notifications of like malware? And this will help eliminate some of that over communication that we can feel with software these days. And you know, our inbox gets filled, and when our inbox gets filled, we tend to ignore things. Well, I don't want you to ignore these messages because they're super important. So the nice part about this is if you are, say, a webmaster and you have marketing people in your team that you want to give access to the data, you can give them access to the data, but then you can turn off some of these prompts so that you as the IT department can be the ones aware of and be knowledgeable about malware and indexing issues and crawling issues. But your marketing folks, they don't need all that clutter in their inbox. You can prevent that from them and alleviate them from that noise. And again, this is something nice that Bing Webmaster Tools offers that we don't see in other tools. All right, so then the next thing about kind of your getting started activity is what Bing calls connected pages. This is a way for Bing to understand who you are outside of your website. They're literally asking you to come in here and connect your social media accounts to your website so that they understand where you live off-site. And it's really nice because the search engines utilize this data to figure out who you are, what you do, and who you may help. And this is a way for you to make it easier for Bing to be able to do that. And you're simply just going to go into the little box that I have shown on the right and put in your individual profiles, and there'll be a verify button where where Bing will go out and check that account to see if it does have your website URL, and then it verifies it. It's really quick. But again, it's a nice, fast way to allow Bing a better understanding of who you are. The world and the web is a big place, right? It is not just your website. Your website might be the property that you own and fully control, but you exist elsewhere. And we want to make sure that the search engines understand where else you live and who you're interacting with. So this is why this kind of information is very, very important. And if you didn't notice, MySpace was really an option on that data entry, which honestly, I don't know who has a MySpace account anymore, if anybody, but apparently Bing still would like you to tell them if you do. Don't look for me on MySpace, you're not going to find me there. All right, so the next item is the ability to submit URLs for Bing. Now this is a very cool feature. So you've uploaded your XML sitemap, which gives Bing a complete listing of your content. And say you've gone and changed pages or posts, and you've created maybe a new post or a new page or a news release. But for some reason, it's really important for you to get that information out there quickly and get it into the search index. Maybe you have a new product that you're announcing, or you've done a medical breakthrough and you need the world to know about it. Well, Bing's giving you a route to make sure that they know about it and that they can get it into the index, and so that the world can know about it. You can literally come in to this screen in your account and tell Bing up to 10 submissions per day and 50 per month what URLs you would like it to be aware of and to take action quickly. So it's a great way of saying, hey Bing, I've got something really important. I need you to look at this, crawl it, digest it, get it into your index quickly. And this is something that we don't readily have available with Google. We can do fetch as Google, but it's still not as straightforward as this to say, hey, this content's important to me. It might be in content, or it might be important to you and your customers. So please make sure you take prompt attention to it. All right, so that's your getting started, right? So let's now look at some of the marketing reports. And again, I'm going to go through the slides just briefly, and then we'll go poke around the actual Bing account. So the first option that you have is this site activity. Now this is a nice pretty graph. It might look kind of crazy to you, but that's just because you're seeing it in a PowerPoint slide. There's a graph, and then underneath the graph is a table. And what is this giving me? Well, I can click on or off the data points that are showing into this graph. So I can see things like crawl errors and the number of pages crawled, the total number of pages that I have indexed in the Bing search, as well as how many times I'm appearing in search and how many times someone is clicking on one of my results and coming over to my website or blog. It is a wonderful summary of activity for your website or your blog, and it'll give it just a really good visual representation. Why is the visual representation important? It's important because if my crawling error, which is very low at the bottom of this graph and it's in red, if all of a sudden that has a huge spike up and you see a shift in the trend of that, that's a problem, because that means my website is in poor health and there's something going on that is prohibiting Bing and most likely other search engines from being able to get to that content, to be able to crawl that content and be able to understand what that content is and then use it in search. That's a major issue. Another way that you can view these trends is what happens if I'm looking at this data and all of a sudden the blue line takes a big tank, right? All of a sudden my clicks from search go down. What if the corresponding trend decrease is in that total pages index, which means how much content I have in Bing's index? Those are alarming data metrics. And by having this graph over time, it helps make me aware of trends that are detrimental to my marketing efforts. That's why I love this kind of data, because it's a very quick snapshot visually for your mind to process, and you can assimilate the data there and you can digest it very quickly, and you can spot issues and trends that you need to take action on. So a great tool, and again, we have the graph and then we have actually data that can support it as well. So guess what? Keywords we thought were gone are actually still present, or at least they still live on Bing. Bing will actually give you a report of your keywords and your number of times each keyword appears in search results, as well as how many times someone's clicking through to those results, which will give you that click-through rate. And it will also tell you what your average position is. Similar data that we have on Google Search Console, but again, we know that data is, sometimes it's a little bit hit or miss. Well, we get that in Bing too. So this will augment your information that you're gathering from Google, and you get to have this data too and get a more clear picture of your keyword strength, your ability to appear in search, because I don't want you just to look at one search engine. I want you to look at both of them and kind of get a holistic and a comprehensive view of where you are with search and SEO. The nice thing about this report is, say you are using as a marketer both SEO and pay-per-click in the search engine's results. Well, you can just hover over any of those phrases and you can see how much money it would be to bid on this from a pay-per-click standpoint. Very nice if you're using both types of search, because you've got information all together in one screen for you and you can kind of look at things and make some quick decisions. I love to look at keywords, and it's because I've been doing SEO for so long. I know they're not the end all and the be all, but the keywords will always still exist. They will always be important to us as marketers. And so you have to be looking at this data data to kind of see how you're faring, and and then be able to potentially take action. All right, so just like Google, we get to see inbound links. Very cool metrics for inbound links, which we get here, but we don't get, I believe in Google Search Console, is again, we get to see some trends. So you can see some activity of inbound links, and this is actually real data from my RebeccaGill.com site. And you can see in April, it was pretty high, and then all of a sudden I took a big turn down, right? I dropped significantly in inbound linked activity from 7,000 to 4,000. Now, me as a marketer, I would be alarmed by that. I would be a little bit freaked out to say, wow, what happened? Why are my inbound links so low? And you would want to wonder what was triggering that. Remember, inbound links matter because they still get counted in that search algorithm to figure out where you should rank and if you're going to rank at all. You have to have some inbound links to your website and your individual URLs to be able to rank and search, no matter what search engine you're on. So as a marketer, this downtrend should alarm me. But guess what? I am me, and I know that in April and May, I had a ton of life changes going on. So my online marketing and the activity that I was doing to promote my education and my business and things like that, I had to taper that off because I had major life changes going on. I sent a daughter to college. I was touring Europe with her. I sold a house. I built a new house and I moved across the state. Those are things that like distracted from my ability to be on podcasts as interview guests, do training for students and things like that. And, the outcome of that is the people linking into me went down over time. And guess what? I can see how much that impacted the activity to my personal website. And those inbound links give me some very powerful information and some data. That's why I love these trends. And you can get even detailed information on these links. You can see exactly how many are coming in as a whole, how many are coming into individual URLs on your website or your blog, where are they coming from, and then you can export all this data and kind of view it even more in depth online, which again, all very good information for us as marketers to make better decisions. All right, so I've gone through that some basic reports. Now let's look at the housekeeping, because when you look at the tools, the Bing Webmaster tool and even Google Search Console, that's one of the important things about these tools that you have to be cognizant of. It's not just so you can get data and be like, oh, I see this pretty graph. What does this graph mean to me? It's also so you can receive feedback on the health of your website or your blog and what you might need to make some immediate changes to. And that's why I'm calling this housekeeping, because your website, your blog isn't something that you launch and then ignore for 6 months or a year or 2 years. It is something that you have to continue to take care of and to nurture and to make sure that everything is healthy on it, whether it's your hosting account or it's your code or it's your content. You need to stay healthy, and this is what this section of Bing is allowing you to do. So first and foremost, I have some basic SEO reports, and it's going to actually give me some wonderful data. Bing automatically runs this every other week, and it's producing fresh content and fresh feedback for you in the website. It's going to give you guidance on what might be out of compliance with SEO best practices, and not just at the site as a whole, but down to an individual URL level. And that's pretty darn powerful. And this box is from an old client site that I have access to still, and they've not loved this website in a very, very long time. Well, let's look at some of the things that are wrong, right? First one is the image tags do not have any alt attributes defined. What does that mean? Well, that means that there is an image on the website and there's no text associated with it. So from an accessibility standpoint, screen readers don't know what that image is, and they can't report that to those humans that are relying on that screen reader to help them explore the web. Well, if the screen readers can't give information to the humans, then the search engines can't gather any information on what that image is either, so they don't know what it is. That means the search engine is currently seeing on this website 353 images that are pretty much blank. They have no idea what they are. which guess what that does? It makes it difficult for the search engines to understand the nature of the content as well as the image, but it also makes a very messy website. And search engines do not like messy websites, which is why Bing is reporting this to you as an issue. There's also, the next one is missing meta language and information. We've got multiple H1 tags. Now this is relating to semantic headers and the use of HTML5. I get into this argument with people all the time because from a code standpoint, I'm going to go nerd for a minute. From a code standpoint, HTML5 says, which is a type of coding, says that you can have multiple H1 tags per page. And technically, it's right, you can. The problem with that is while the search engines won't penalize you for going that route, you are not helping them and you are not helping humans. And we all know that the heart of SEO is making sure that you have a positive user experience for humans and that you're helping the search engines understand the nature of your content and what you offer. Well, by using headers properly, so in having H1s and H2s and H3s and setting those up so that they are in an outlined manner and they have flow to them that is proper flow, you are helping both. You are giving the search engines an outline of your content. You're helping them understand the content blocks and what is that structure and how they relate to each other, and you're allowing them to see multiple keywords on a given page and pull out sections to provide in search engine results. Well, while you're doing that, you're also helping the accessibility issues and screen readers because they heavily rely on these headers to be able to help understand the nature of a page. The problem that we have is people put in those of, just all H1s, or they set those subheaders up for based on colors and size and things, and it's all visual with artsy, presentations, but that's not what they're used for. They are used to provide an outline to your content, and they are important to SEO, and that is why Bing is reporting on them here. And I think that it's very cool that it gives us kind of data. And in this website, there's 95 issues across 46 different URLs. That is a problem. And then we've got like this last one that there's, missing information in the head section of the source page. The goal here is for you to take away that Bing isn't just giving you a place to tell it information. It is being an active partner with you from a marketing perspective, and it's giving you information back on how you can improve your position in search. And I think that that's very cool, and I'm very thankful for them that they're taking the time to do that. So all search engines have crawlers that will run through your website and kind of go from link to link to link to explore content. It's the nature of the web. The web is basically made up of links and content, and those links help everybody explore data. Well, the problem with that is the crawlers encounter lots of issues, and Bing will actually go through and give you reports on all of these issues, and you can see the different status codes. And I've got them in the slides for you. You're seeing on my personal site a number of 400 or 404s where the search engines expected to find content and they did not. And I can see, because they're giving me the nice list of URLs, that it's all associated with an event plugin. And it's most likely resolved, but that was, that I can as the marketer or the webmaster quickly start to figure out the source of this issue. And I love that Bing is giving us this data because it does help us, again, keep our content very clean and our website clean. It also reports out things like 302s, which are temporary moves, which we should really never have, because the world does not want to have a bunch of temporary changes on sites. We want, if content has been moved or deleted, we want to have permanent instructions, and those are the 301s. Those are important for SEO because they transfer that SEO value. So those are the kind of things that Bing's given us back, which is great because it helps us understand how well Bing's crawlers can get through our site and digest our content, which if they can crawl our content, that means they can read our content. That means they are more inclined to rank our content. Okay, so the next one is mobile friendliness. Very cool. We get this kind of information from Google, but it just kind of, in this test itself, Bing does a nice job of just giving us some quick results. And this is another old website that I have access to. The website that you're seeing on the side, that's a mobile presentation of it. What you see is a full desktop page. It is not mobile responsive. It is still live and not mobile responsive. And I will admit that I think I did that website back in like 2010 when I first started Web Savvy Marketing. And so that would have been one of my very first clients back then. And that's 8 years ago, folks. And that's why that website looks as it does. It was pretty cool in the day, but it doesn't adhere to today's usage, right? People search more on mobile than they do on desktop. This is a company website for a corporation, and look how it appears on the desktop or the mobile device. There's no way anybody could read that. Bing's trying to alert you of this to say, hey, in case you forgot, you've got this website out there. It isn't mobile friendly. Half of your user base probably can't read it because they're on mobile devices and it's not adapting. So it not only just looks to see is the website mobile responsive, but it also starts to give you feedback on what may or may not be adhering to best practices. And then you can actually view individual URLs to check them to see if they're mobile friendly or not. The Markup Validator is applying to structured data in schema. If you want to run away from schema and schema language and the structured data coding, I have to caution you, because while it is technically based and it does require a little bit of technical knowledge, the search engines are pushing this more and more, and you are not going to be able to run away from it. They are using this more and more to evaluate who should appear in search and how they should appear, so you have to embrace this. Whether you're a large corporation or you are a blogger, you need to understand what structured data is, how it may apply to your website, and who can help you implement this correctly. Bing gives you an option to come in here and validate your data. And this is just a grab that it did from my website, which basically is just pulling the open graph information to say, hey, it's, Rec Eagle's website, here's some overviews of it and things like that. Nothing really fancy in that presentation, but if this was a jobs list or events or products or locations for individual offices, that data would be much differently presented, and I would need to know whether or not I could validate it. And that's because the language used in structured data is important to the search engines, because it's really helping them understand the website, and they have very little tolerance for errors in that. Okay, so disavow links. I try to stay away from disavow links because I don't chase after backlinks, but a lot of people out there have hired SEO consultants who are less than savvy and, did some shortcuts that created some really bad inbound links that are harming their clients. And in that case, you actually have to go find those, and you need to disavow them with both Google and with Bing. Both search engines have an option for allowing you to upload those, and I want you to see that this is an option within Bing. You just upload it very easily, just kind of like you do with Google, and it's you telling Bing that you do not take ownership over these inbound links. You're not vouching for them, and you don't want Bing to utilize those to figure out whether or not you should rank in search. And again, if you've hired an SEO consultant in the past and you don't know what they've done to your site or your backlink profile, that's something you should investigate. And if needed, you should disallow files to both Google and Bing. Okay, this is the last slide before we're gonna kind of jump over and look at things online. But this is just a quick, if you find somebody who scraped your content, and by the way, I did this weekend, they scraped an entire website of mine, you have an ability to come into come into Bing and say, please de-index this content. It is a violation of my copyright. This is my last resort. I always go first to the website owner, I go to their hosting company, and then this is my last resort, because I like to just take care of it first with the people that are managing the data, then trying to address it with the search engines themselves. But if you've already exhausted those other routes and you can't get those violators to take down your content that they've swiped, then this is your route, and I give you a link to do that and to a form that you can fill it out. The cool thing about this with Bing is that Bing not only allows you to submit the violation, but then there's a dashboard that you can use to kind of track the activity with it. All right, so with that, let's kind of jump on over to the dashboard itself and look at a few things. So you're going to see on this left-hand side, and I will try to make this bigger for people, you're going to see a big list of options, right? This is all of the menu options you have to go into for Bing Webmaster Tools. These are all data points, either instructions or configuration settings or reports that Bing's giving you to help you do better in Bing search. You can see some trend activity, and I can start to really start to see some of that data that we were looking at in the slides. And you can see content over here, the information that I was referring to earlier, like my disavow links, my connected pages where I can connect my MySpace profile with my website, submit those URLs, the mobile friendly check, things like that, the keywords. So much really good information that's available that you can just start to click around and really get some great feedback. And keep in mind, you don't need to be intimidated by this. Even though this is, your connection to Bing, Bing is giving you this information so that you can do better. And like this is the live version of the keyword report that I showed you in the slide. And again, this is my personal site. I haven't done a ton of optimization on this because this is kind of a landing page where you can come here, find out who I am, and then go over to the other web properties. But, there is some SEO value to this. And so I might want to see, this SEO value, and like WordPress SEO consulting, I'm ranking 4. Maybe I want to be higher. Maybe I want to do pay-per-click. So if I were going to pay per pay-per-click, what would be the average spend I would have per click? And I just hover, and now I get that information. I can look at the different information by viewing some pages, just, great information that Bing's giving me to make me better in search and really make sure that I understand the current state, and then I can make action, I can take action to improve things. So the SEO report, that health check, right? Is what I showed you earlier, where my client from ever ago had a bunch of things. Well, he had, I think, 300 images that didn't have alt tags. I have one. That one still needs to be addressed. I still need to go in there and fix it, and I can, just to see what's going on. But here's the cool thing. It gives me a little bit of more information on why does this matter to me. And I'm an educator at heart. I love the fact that Bing is giving me this additional information to say, hey, this is important. Here's why it's important, and here's what we want you to do to fix it. So again, really good information. I had mentioned the crawl information and that crawl reporting to see if I have any 404 errors. I can export these. So, this is a great feature, because say you're a marketer, you come in here and you don't actually manage your website, you have an IT staff that does that. You can export this information and hand it over to your IT staff to say, hey, here's some issues that have been reported. Can you look into this for me? So you're doing a little bit of work for them and giving them a head start so that they can take this information and they can, utilize it to clean up your website. Additional areas that we can have, that markup validator that I mentioned. So I can get specific information, and the information that Bing is checking for is great. I mentioned structured data and the schema.org, but it does JSON and micro formats and open graphs. So it is giving you lots of different pieces and bits of information to, again, just make sure your site is healthier. And then, there's additional items down here of, your messages, certificates and things like that. If you had any notifications of malware, Google would give you, Bing would give you information on that right now and right here. So you can say, okay, I have this information, this feedback coming from Bing, I need to take action on it. And again, Bing trying to keep you healthy, just like Google does, to make sure that they can have healthy websites and they can present you best in search, because you always have to come back with SEO to the intent of the search engines. The search engines have that intent where they want to make sure that they are making their customers happy. The search engines are not here because they love us. They're here because they make money off of ads. for their customers to continue to come back to the search engine and click on those ads, they have to have good organic SEO search results. And if those results aren't healthy and they're not solid, then people are not going to come and click on those ads. So the search engines by default want to do everything they can to help webmasters have good content, healthy websites, and in turn make their customer base happy when they visit those websites via search. And when you start to look at like the Google Search Console and the Bing Webmaster Tools in that respect, it kind of changes how you're viewing the data and the inputs that you're getting back from them, because you do realize that they're trying to help you, but they're also trying to help you so that they can make their own money, and you really do need to pay attention to these things. These are important details for you to note and for you to make sure that you're taking action on. And the, you know, I love Google, and I always mention Google, but Google clearly states, and I'm sure Bing feels the same, that the heart of SEO is making incremental changes to your website that may seem insignificant one by one, but over time, collectively, they make a measurable impact on your ability to rank in search. And that is because your website is healthier, your content is better, you're producing a better experience for that human visitor. And both the search engines, even though they compete with each other, they have the same end goal and they go the same route to help you make sure that happens. And so keep that in mind as you're looking through your data on Bing Webmaster Tools and you're deciding what you might want to do to improve your content. Okay, so just a few other things to look at. This is the copyright infringement. So if you do have somebody who scrapes your content, there is a link in the PDF for this, so you can get to this quickly and know how to address it. And then you've got the dashboard over there. We have the getting started checklist. All of this right here, my friends, is just wonderful data from Bing on how you can better position yourself for SEO. There's guidelines, there's best practices for 404 pages, you know, step-by-step guides for getting started, right? I talked briefly about uploading your sitemap and connecting your accounts. Well, Bing takes you step by step. Every single report they have on their in their toolkit for you, they're giving you instructions on how to use it and what you can do with it and why it's there. So this is a wealth of information that you can kind of take your time and walk through. Okay, so one thing I do want to make sure that you are aware of is that just like we have Google My Business, we also have Bing Places. This is the option for having local listings within Bing. And don't just think the pizza shop at the corner needs to have a local listing. They do as well, and the bike store and everybody else, and the consultant that, you know, is they're the accountant. However, organizations that are large and multi-location, they should have their own individual listings on Google My Business and in Bing Places. In fact, I was just on a call with a large company that had a corporate website, and they probably had like 50 locations. And I suggested to them that as part of the redesign of their project and their website, that we have location pages, individual location pages, where we can incorporate that structured data to help the search engines understand those locations, where they're physically at, and who they help. And then part of that, you know, add on to that would be to come and make sure that those locations are represented in Bing Places and Google My Business. The very cool thing about Bing is they let you import your listings from Google My Business. I would suspect that of the people on this presentation, 75% of you maybe have a Google My Business account, and probably 5% of you have a Bing Places account. Well, for those that have a mismatch, you can just import that data right into Bing, and you don't have to do a whole lot of extra work, which is great. And it will verify just like it does on, you know, the Google My Business will send you a postcard, and you know, you have to validate that way to show that there's really a physical address. Bing does the exact same thing. It gives you a little URL that you go to, you put in that code, and then it says, okay, you know, we can tell that this is a legit business, there is a legit location, and then they validate it for you. And that link is in here in case you have not set up a Bing Places account. I wanted to make sure that you had that link so you can do that after this webinar concludes. All right, so I gave you a great overview of what's important in Bing, but I just want to show you quickly all of the things that are available. And I wanted to make sure that it was in the slides so you had it as a takeaway. So from a resource standpoint, we can configure our sites and we have all of these options. We have tons of options under using the reports and data, our messages and our alerts, the diagnostic tools like that Markup Validator and the mobile friendliness check and the SEO analyzer, which will give us that feedback on how healthy our SEO is. And then to malware reevaluations where Bing may have told us that we've got malware on our site and they've got us on hold until we fix it. And that's where you would go to address that with them. But that's not all they offer. They also have lots of tools and tutorials and help guides. And they've got basic information. They've got some advanced topics like the robots meta tags and first click free, which a lot of larger websites do that have paywalls associated with them. They've got some FAQs, webmaster support. They've got blogs available. There's just so much goodness that Bing has out there for webmasters and marketers because, you know, again, its job is to make sure that your website's healthy so that they can fulfill the needs of their own customers. And then you just, like I have even more goodness. So you've got the Webmaster Guidelines, which is additional information. You've got Webmaster Tool Support, where you can actually request assistance from a real human on crawling and indexing issues or account verification, things that you may have stumbled on. And like I said, I had turnaround within 24 hours when I submitted something through them. And then lastly, Bing actually does have a blog. It's not updated as much as the Webmaster blog is for Google, but they do have a Webmaster blog specifically for Bing. They do push out updates through there. So if you are a marketer or a webmaster, I would encourage you to follow either their social profiles or making sure that you're getting the feed from that account because you can get some valuable information from them. And the one thing that's cool about Bing too is there's been times where I've read something in their blog, I've made a comment about it on Twitter, and they've actually replied to me on Twitter. Like the official Bing account came back and said that they're glad that was helpful, if they can be of any assistance, things like that, which is not something that we typically get from Google. And so just a little bit of nuance from Bing that that gives me a nice warm and fuzzy, that tells me they are trying to do good. They're trying to support us as marketers of webmasters. And, I want to do my part to make sure I'm giving them clean sites so they can put me as far up in search as possible. All right, so I wanted to make sure we left a little bit of time for questions, and let's see if we have any. Oh, we do have questions. Okay, perfect. So for those of you who have time to stay around from questions, I will be going through them. If you do not, just know that your video recording of this will be coming out via email with a link to the slides, and then I will also post an upload of this to my YouTube channel so that it's there forever. So I hope the information that we went through was great, and let's go through and hit these questions one by one. All right. A bunch of you just saying hi to me. I love that. I put time into these presentations, and I schedule them a year out so that I have lots of good education coming. So I love seeing familiar faces on here, and I love just seeing highs and thank yous from everybody. It does mean a lot to me. Okay, so Guy asked, do you have any idea how important Bing and Yahoo is in Europe? Unfortunately, Guy, I do not, but I would tell you that I certainly would not ignore it, right? I would not focus all my efforts on Google and completely ignore Bing and Yahoo. The Bing market share has continued to grow year after year, and they are chipping away at that market share of Google. So, and they're reaching new markets. So if they had 37 markets, I'm quite sure Europe's got to be a pretty dominant one. And and the best way to find that out would be looking at some of the information that they offer for pay-per-click and trying to get those advertising dollars, because I think we would find some good information there. I've always done my optimization for Google and focused on Google, although I have paid attention to Bing and the information I get from Bing. And what I've realized is even though their algorithms are different, if you focus and you do best practices for SEO that we know are just good things to do, you tend to rank in both of them. And because, again, they have the same goals. They're trying to bring in advertising dollars. They have to create a positive user experience. They have to answer people's questions and solve their problems. So that is definitely the route to just to stay in good graces with both of them. All right, let's see. Patrick says that they've had some issues with verifying profiles sometimes. So I've had issues with verifying people as well as actual websites. And it's not just been once, it's been a number of times. What I've noticed, Patrick, is if you wait like 24 hours or even maybe 72 hours and you come back and try whatever process you're trying to do again, somehow it magically always seems to resolve itself. I don't know why, but it just does, right? Whether it's trying to validate the website that you have ownership over it, or it's adding in a user that wouldn't get accepted before, whatever nuance and quirk that's in Bing software just seems to resolve itself in a day or a couple of days. So I would always encourage you to don't completely get stressed out, set it aside, come back to it. If you're still having difficulties, do that, reach out to support, because like I said, 24 hours, they replied back to me, which was wonderful. Okay, let's see. From Deb, like Google, do you get clients to create their own Bing accounts and then add yourself, or do you use your dashboard for clients? Typically, Deb, I don't like to have access to a client's credentials. Like I don't want their login access, and because I'm never usually in the right or the same geographical area as them, it can just cause entry errors, right? And it's hard for me to get access. So what I've always done is, plus it just honestly can overwhelm clients. What I've done is I've always added them to my dashboard and then put them in as administrators so that they have full access over the account and they can make any modifications that they need to. I don't think that as developers, it's that we should put that onus and that ownership on the client, because a lot of times it's not their specialty. It's not something that they're aware of and even know how to do. It can freak them out. So, as much as you can help them, I encourage you to help them and stay away from their credentials, because just from a liability standpoint, we do not need to know their passwords, because most of the time it's password 123 and they use it across all of their accounts, including banking and things like that. And I just like to keep kind of separation there. Okay, so Carol asked if there are variations of HTTP and HTTPS in Bing. Yeah, like they do in Google. Bing does distinguish between the two, and I'll tell you, it is a lot easier to manage and update that in Bing. It's been a while since I've done it, but that nuance is still there. But know that as you go in there, it is much easier to make modifications and to update things. Okay, so Deb, I've been signed up for the Bing since 2014. Admittedly, I've ignored it a lot, and there's no data. And this is because you submitted URLs. No, so you don't have to submit URLs, Deb. Like those individual URL options is just if you have something critical that you want to make sure that Bing brings in, right, that they're going to index quickly. So what that is if you're not seeing data, I would suspect that you're not well validated, that you actually need to go through, check your XML sitemap. Well, first and foremost, check to make sure that the account has been verified and that it is truly an active account, because that'd be my first area for troubleshooting. Next, I'd go make sure that my XML sitemaps are submitted and they look healthy and there's not any error messages coming back from there. And if you're still not seeing data, I would reach out to support and say, hey, here's the account, here's the URL, could you help me figure out what might be wrong? And hopefully they would respond to you as quickly as they did with me, and then you'd get some information. Okay, so Ken asks, is there an easy way to clear out all the crawled content so that you get no 301s? or do you lose too much SEO credibility and history? So for those of you that are unfamiliar with 301 redirect, a 301 redirect tells the search engines and any referring websites that the old URL is gone, and it tells them the replacement URL. And when it does that, it also instructs the search engines to transfer the SEO value of the old URL to that new one. Super powerful, because you get to keep your URL, or excuse me, you get to keep your ranking in SEO and search, even if that URL is changed. You don't need to get rid of 301s. Keep them for a long time. Google actually says keep them for at least a year active, because that way as traffic's coming in and hitting them, they keep seeing that 301. They keep knowing that that inbound link is actually meant for some other destination. So don't feel like you have to get rid of those. The 301s in the Bing Webmaster account is just telling you that they're there and that they see them. They're not bad. The 302s, those are bad. You want to get rid of 302s because those are temporary URL moves, and you want to change those over to 301s because 302s pass no SEO value. Sherry asks, how do I know if someone scraped my website? Well, I always find out a couple of different ways. One is I start to get pings from WordPress that people have linked back to me, and that's always an indication, which is why I always have those notifications still active. The next way I know is I saw the activity in Google Analytics. I saw that website was a referral, and I thought, that website looks an awful lot like my domain name. Why is that? It's kind of so convoluted. And then I went to go look at the website, and I saw all of my content sitting there. And that's how I found out that they had scraped the site. Google Analytics is your friend for that. And another way that you would find out that information is by the inbound links in either Bing Webmaster Tools or Google Search Console. Both of them will show links coming into your site, and both of those are opportunities to find people who have scraped your content. And the reason you can figure it out that way is because the people that scrape your content do it in an automated fashion, and they never update any internal links. They're still pointed back to your site. It's very frustrating, but I don't know why people do it, because it never seems to really work. But the world is what it is, and you just have to manage it. And in that respect, I always will tell people, handle it with sugar first. Be nice, tell them that you found it, they need to take it down. And in my experience, 75 to 80% of the time, it just gets taken away within 48 hours. I'm like, I'm aware of this. I would prefer not to take legal action or issue any takedown notices with either your host or search engine. So please make sure this goes away now. And a lot of times it just does. And then if not, then you have to take that secondary action. All right. So Sherry asked, if you have a home-based business, can you still set up a Bing Places account? So Bing's going to require an address, and it can't, as long as you know the address is legit, even if it is in your home, you can actually set that up because it can get valid, it can get verified. I can't remember if Bing allows a service area or not, because it has been a while since I changed an address in there. For those of you not super familiar with Google My Business, Google, for those people who are like have a home-based business and have a service area around them, like in cities, surrounding cities, you can actually say, don't show my address on the web, but know that I service this area of cities or counties, and this is where I do business. And that's perfectly legit with Google, and I would suspect it is with Bing, but I can't answer that 100%. Okay, can additional users be added to Bing after verification? Yes, Ross, they can, and that's one of the things I love about Bing, and you can set profiles for them and even configure messages so that they're not getting all of the clutter in their inbox. They will have to have some type of Microsoft account to be able to do that, and so that's got to be set up and activated before you can add them. All right, next question from Karen regarding the reporting to inbound links. So you're saying that your regular promotion with podcasts and such created 3,000 inbound links for you. That seems like a high number for short-term inbound links. Can you respond to that? Yeah. So Karen, I do a lot of different things from a marketing standpoint. I am a firm believer in the best source of backlinks is good old-fashioned traditional marketing. And that means you are giving goodness out, and you're doing so in most cases free of charge. So when I've said the podcasts and things like that, that's just one of the things that I do. I have written guest blog posts on websites for large corporations. I've appeared as an interview guest on a number of podcasts. I speak at conferences. I do just a variety of things. And then as I have a ebook that I give away free on the introduction to search engine optimization, or I've got articles on different things about SEO. Well, as part of that process, which is just natural marketing, I receive all of those inbound links, and from some really well-respected and high authority websites. But as soon as you start to taper down on that, those links kind of start to not show up as well. Marketing is an ongoing thing. Online marketing is the same. You have to always be creating and giving and working at promoting your brand so that people know who you are and how you can help them. And for me, that's giving free education like I am today, and that brings back those links. And I was quiet. I had a lot going on from May into, I would tell you, the end of July was really crazy for me and my family. So I had to taper a lot of that down, and you can see the links associated with it. Claudia says she loves the new branding of my presentations. Claudia, I am adhering to the branding of Imagine, which is the new company I am working for, and they will thank you for that. All right, Steve says he is now a Bing convert, and I love that. Excellent. Okay, so this is a question from JL, and he says it's a stupid question, but JL, there are no stupid questions. This is a great question. If you optimize for Bing, will it actually hurt you on Google? And the answer is no, because they both really have the same plan for you. Bing's not telling you to do any rogue SEO practices, right? It's telling you to adhere to best practices. And they both want you to adhere to best practices. They want you to do similar things. Performance and speed are important. High quality content, keyword focus that is not, scattered all over the website and convoluted, that's important. Signals of where those keywords live and your internal link structure, that's important to both. Adherence to accessibility, large and growing in importance. Mobile responsiveness, large and growing in importance. All of those matter to both Bing and to Google. So, optimizing for one versus the other isn't going to hurt you. Now, that may have been a different story 10 years ago when the search engines were as in-line as they are today, but they both really value that human experience and making sure that we're all doing good. And so I think that that's great because, it helps us as marketers. All right, let's see. I tried to set up Bing Places, but Ireland doesn't exist on the Bing country list. Oh, that's just, sorry, Clinton. I don't have an answer for that. Ireland must not be one of the target areas that Bing has. But you know what I would do if I were you? I would send a notice to support and ask them about it. Say, hey, I'm in Ireland. I've, became aware of the awesomeness you have available to us marketers and webmasters, and I'm trying to set up Bing Places. Is this not available? Is this on your roadmap? And if it is available and I'm not getting it, what am I missing? And then just kind of get that information to them. Okay, Kim asked if this slide deck available on SlideShare. Kim, it will be in about an hour because I was making some tweaks right before we came live, but I will have it up there. And for those of you who have followed my presentations, I'm just Rebecca Gill on SlideShare. All of my prior presentations are there, and this one will be there as well. Okay, and the rest of them are all just kind of thank yous. Greg, I'm gonna wrap up with you because this is great. It says, thanks for your time. I was avoiding setting up Bing, but after this webinar, I feel much more confident about giving it a try. Greg, I'm thankful to hear that because that means the hour that I just spent with you was completely worth it. Bing's a great tool. Don't ignore it, embrace it. Know that it is there to help you. It's there to give you feedback. Their goal is the same as Google. And, as marketers, we need to embrace both. We need to make sure that we are compliant and healthy and adhering to best practices for both. It's not going to hurt you. It's just going to take a little bit of time. And then you just need to check back once in a while to validate that everything is still in good health. All right, my friends, and with that last question and feedback, I'm going to close up our webinar. And as I said, I will make sure that the recording of this goes to the YouTube channel. The slides go up to SlideShare, and then you get links to both in emails that will be following up in about an hour or two. Thanks so much for coming to the webinar. I do have one more scheduled for this year, which is where we will look back at what's happened in 2018. And we'll look ahead at what you need to be aware of for 2019. If you've not registered for that yet, I encourage you to go over to RebeccaGill.com and just hit the events area, and you'll be able to see a little bit of information and the registration link. All right, thanks so much, everyone.